The earth in the middle model it has digestion and assimilation as the center of everything. You can see how that's important in food energetics, but everything, digesting and assimilating your emotions, what you see, what you learn, what you interact with, everything that we do as we move through the world has to be energetically digested and assimilated.
Welcome to the world of energy, where science meets spirit. Ancient wisdom merges with cutting-edge knowledge, and the possibilities for a healthier, happier you are endless.
Welcome to another episode of Energy Works. This is Blaine, and I have a solo episode today. And this has changed what I thought I was going to talk about and what I am going to talk about. My original intention was to talk about food energetics and blood building and what we can eat to support us with our blood building, because many of us are weak in this area for a whole bunch of reasons, which I was going to dive into. So I started putting all my thoughts and my notes together, and then I realized I could not talk about blood building without talking about spleen and spleen energy. And then all of the information about the food energetics and the spleen just ended up being too much. So I decided to divide this into two parts. The first is spleen, which I'll talk about today, and then be on the lookout in the future for a food energetics episode on blood building from me. All right, spleen energy. The reason why I have so much to say about this at this moment is because the topic has been coming up over and over and over again in different venues. I think that it is relevant to all of us because of the time that we live in. So spleen is in the earth element, and I'll give you a little history lesson that's relevant here. Many, many years ago, thousands of years ago, Chinese medicine 5-element theory was developed. And the way the 5 elements were depicted, if you can think about the hub and spoke model. So there are 5 elements, and in the original model, Earth was in the middle, and then going around Earth, there were 4 points: water, wood, fire, and metal. So you can imagine Earth in the middle, and then 4 little, toothpicks shooting off of Earth, kind of at the corners, and then there were these other 4 elements on the outside. So it was like that for millennia, a long time. And then there were, there's regime changes in China, and I can't say them all, but there's the this dynasty and the that dynasty. And under different regimes, things changed. And so that's what happened. Under a Chinese regime, the hub and spoke model, I will call it, I don't know if that's what they called it, turned into what they do call the generative model. And so it's a full circle. Water is generative to wood, is generative to fire, is generative to earth, is generative to metal, is generative to water. So it's just, you can imagine just a big circle going round and round with nothing in the middle. And then when in the 1950s, traditional Chinese medicine got standardized for the world. And in the standardized model, it was the generative model. And it makes a perfect pentagon. You can have a circle where you just, the generative model, but then there's another cycle within it called the control cycle, where the line goes from water to fire, fire to metal, metal to wood, wood to earth, earth to water. And when you draw all those lines, it creates a perfect star, a pentagon star. And it's very important. We call our membership EM Yoga Stars because of this star from the 5-element model. And a lot of our work at Energy Medicine Yoga is based around this star. So we use the star all the time. And since the 1950s, it is the standard model. However, the original model had Earth in the middle. And there's also relevance to that. There's specific relevance in food energetics. All of the Chinese medicine food energetics teachers teach the Earth in the middle model. But it's also relevant to what I'm going to share today. And the Earth in the middle model it has digestion and assimilation as the center of everything. You can see how that's important in food energetics, but everything, digesting and assimilating your emotions, what you see, what you learn, what you interact with, everything that we do as we move through the world has to be energetically digested and assimilated. And then with earth, it would bring in water or wood or whatever as part of this digestion and assimilation. So all of that to say that spleen is super important, and it doesn't matter what you eat. If you can't digest it, assimilate it, get the nutrients out of it, and have it flow through your digestive system appropriately. So we want really balanced spleen, and then we can get into food and talk about blood building and how food interacts with that. How this is relevant to today is how much we are taking in, how much we are looking at our phones, very specifically, looking at our phones, looking at screens. If you're someone who works online, you're looking at your computer all day, you're looking at your phone all day. And then there's the regular daily interactions of life. There's so much happening so fast that it's hard to digest and assimilate it all. And then the ADHD diagnoses are just through the roof on the rise, right? We can't focus. We can't concentrate. We're just overloaded. There is too much happening and we can't digest and assimilate it. So we feel fried, overburdened. Some of us go to bed and we have that tired but wired feeling. We're laying in bed and we're so tired, but we can't sleep because we have so much undigested energy in our body just reverberating, and it keeps us awake. Where this intersects with what I was going to talk to you about is the way that we eat. I did a challenge. It was about exactly a year ago. I was just like I am right now. There's a season of my life that I live alone in Florida. It is in the winter season, as you can guess. And my partner is here with me for part of the time, but then he goes back to Colorado to ski, and I'm here by myself for a few weeks. And I'm in that time right now, and I was in this time last year, and it's a great time for me, it's the water element in the winter, to really step back and kind of go deep within myself and think about what I want to shift. And one of the things I knew I wanted to shift was reading, watching TV, working, doing something while I was eating. Because at the time, especially working, I'm by myself 3 meals a day. I can have my breakfast and work at the same time. I can have my lunch and work at the same time. I can have my dinner and work at the same time. There's no one in the house to talk to. And I could feel energetically, we can call it constipated. Right? I was so full of so many things that I couldn't digest right. I couldn't focus on my food, and I was not digesting and assimilating well. So I did this challenge where 3 meals a day, I would not do that. And I did it. And there was a whole bunch of sub things in the challenge, like putting your fork down between every bite and how many times you chew and all these different things. And so I was going through the whole thing, and it was hard because I was addicted to being stimulated while I was eating, and not just kind of being bored in a way, just sitting quietly, eating my food slowly, not trying to slam my meal down in 5 minutes or less. Chew, taste, have gratitude for my food. I'm preparing all this food for myself. So having gratitude in the work that I did to buy the food and make the decision of what to make and prepare the food. I love my own cooking. I think it's very delicious. I would always prefer to eat my own prepared food over go out, unless it's some social situation and I'm prioritizing social over quality of food. And it was really impactful for me to do that. And so I've been working on this for over a year now. And I say working on it because I'm not perfect. There are times that I'm drawn to reading something for fun while I'm eating. So even if I'm not working per se while I'm eating, I always have a backlog of articles I want to read or, information that I want to take in for fun, or maybe even some personal study. And I feel tempted because I'm tight on time like everybody else. And I can do two things at once, eat and do my study or my reading at the same time. And I'll slide back a little bit and then I'll remember why that's not good. And I go back to quietly eating by myself. And this is important. And I know it's hard for people. When we were in Costa Rica at our Costa Rica retreat last December, we were talking a lot about Ayurveda, which is healthcare from India, the healthcare system from India. And they've been teaching in Ayurveda for thousands of years that this is what you need to do. Do not be in any sort of stimulating or learning place while you are eating. They've been teaching it for thousands of years in China. It's, in China, they very much tie it to spleen energy. They don't call it spleen energy so much in Ayurveda, but it's the exact same thing. When your system is overloaded, you cannot digest and assimilate. So we taught this and talked about it quite a bit in Costa Rica, and there's so much resistance. People are like, what? I mean, they can't imagine not sitting in front of the TV and eating or watching videos or reading or something like that. It was so foreign to people. And I have a friend who was at the Costa Rica retreat, and she went home and she called me we talk frequently, but it was about a week after the retreat. And she said that she was trying to do it and she just forgets, her habits are so strong to be scrolling on her phone or doing emails on her phone or something on her phone while she's eating that she'll maybe squeak one meal in and then just forget and go back to doing the eating while she's doing something else. And so I acknowledge that I feel like it's like meditation. It's so hard to get people, and I'm a meditation teacher. It's so hard to get people to just sit and be quiet, doing nothing. Here, at least you get to eat, but it seems so challenging for people. And I'm not separating myself from that because it's challenging for me to meditate. And I've been meditating for a very, very long time. It's still challenging for me to meditate. And it's challenging for me to eat while doing nothing. So I acknowledge. But I'm telling you, I feel so much better and I feel so much more nourished from my food when I do it this way. What I am not saying is that you cannot have meals with other people and talk. That is a different thing. Earth energy loves community. Social meals, eating with friends while nobody's on their phone and everyone's just consuming the meal collectively and conversing, that is excellent. So please don't confuse scrolling with your phone to having a loving meal with people who you're close to. Now, if you're having arguments while you're eating, or you're having tension or something like that, that creates the same problem. Everything is too constricted and you're not going to be able to digest and assimilate. Digestion starts with the eyes. They used to think that digestion started in the mouth with your saliva, but now they say that when your eyes see the food, then all of the energy of digestion starts to happen. I actually think I cook 3 meals a day, almost every single day. And I think when I'm preparing my food, when I'm like chopping and cooking and seeing it in the pan and stirring and all of that, if my energy knows that as soon as this meal is done, I'm going to sit down and enjoy it, I think I can feel that the energetic readiness of my body to have this experience of eating, this grounding experience of eating. Earth element is very grounding. And I start energetic preparation while cooking. I don't know if that's in the studies yet, though. I haven't read that. A tie-in to this, at least in my mind, it's a tie-in, is the conversation around productivity. Lauren and I talk about productivity quite a bit. I have a mentorship where I mentor other health and wellness professionals. It's a business mentorship. So yoga teachers, healers, body workers, energy healers, energy workers, people in those aromatherapists, people in these kinds of professions. I help them build their business. And the topic of productivity and how we manage our schedule comes up quite a bit. And I was just at a business conference last weekend. I was a speaker at the business conference, and 2 things happened there. That is one of the reasons why this is so present to me right now, because this just happened last week in these 2 events over this 2-day conference. One of them was there was a main stage, and then there were breakout rooms and breakout sessions. And so I taught on the main stage. I also led a breakout session. There we go, a breakout session. And I went to somebody else's breakout session that was on productivity. And it was taught by a woman who I had recently met. So I was curious what she was going to say about it, because it's a topic that I love. And it was fascinating because her whole workshop was on stop. Just stop. And this was an entrepreneur business event. And so all these people, are like, I work all the time. I work 7 days a week. I'm so busy. I need to get organized. I can't keep it all straight. Please help me do that. And she said, take 5 days off. Just drop everything and take 5 days off. Which was really great because 5 days is kind of a lot. But her point was, you're so busy, you can't think. You're so busy, you can't strategize. You're so busy, you can't step back and think, what could I delegate? Should I hire somebody? Should I schedule my calendar in a different way? Are all of these things I'm doing actually moving the business forward, or are they just busy work that I've always done but don't have value anymore? The point was, you need space. You need to work. This is yang and yin. You need to work, and then you need to stop so that you have space to think. And then you work, and then you stop. And then you work, and then you stop. And this was for business people, but I really loved the way she framed this from an energetic perspective, even though that's not what she called it at all, is that you can't just work. You will never feel like you're being productive. You will never get where you want to go. You have to stop. You have to rest. You have to back away and then come forward again. That's what your schedule needs to be. Her point was, if you can do that, you will find a way to be more productive. These people, their spleen energy is overloaded. It is too much all the time, no rest. And so spleen, again, it's everything, earth in the middle. It's everything about your life. It's not just what you eat, which is why I'm doing this first. The other thing that happened is when I was on the stage, the main stage, I was talking about energetic techniques for entrepreneurs that they can do to help them stay focused and have their emotions balanced and all of the things that entrepreneurs need to do. So I was teaching energy techniques. And I had to talk about spleen some for all the reasons that I've shared about on this podcast. And I was talking about stepping away to eat and not working through your meals. And I said, do you ever eat junk food with one hand while you're scrolling on your phone with the other hand? And the whole room just broke out into laughter. Literally, it was like raucous laughter. And I didn't mean it as a joke. I just said it. And everyone related to it so much, eating junk food with one hand while scrolling on their phone with the other hand. And can you imagine what that's doing to your spleen energy? You're trying to take in everything you're reading on your phone, and then junk food, that's super challenging for spleen. And all of this is coming in at the same time. And, we wonder why we have trouble sleeping and digestive problems and all these things with the gut that are going on. And, I could go on and on about the root cause issue, which is spleen energy. So if you're listening to this and you think, I can't do it. I can't eat a meal without distracting myself with something else. I'll give you a tip, maybe a challenge. Try to at least do 50% of your meal. Of course, I want you to do 100% of your meal. I would love it if you could, either sit in community with no devices and no screens and no computers and no TVs and have dialogue with the community that you're eating with. That, of course, is number one ideal. But if you're like me, you're alone or you have some meals alone, eat alone. Chew, swallow, taste. Take a break from everything else except for eating. If you think I can't do it, or you're like my friend, you've been trying to do it, but you keep not. 50%. Can you start by eating 50% of your food, just you? And once you've eaten more than half your food, grab your phone or your remote or whatever it is for the second 50%. And then maybe you can do 75%, and then maybe you can do 100%. I hate to tell people to do things and not give them some kind of stepping stone way, because I realize that it can be a big leap for some people. So that's what I have to say about spleen energy. Look in the future for an episode from me on blood building, which ties a lot to spleen. So we need your spleen energy to be really healthy and functioning before we dive into the blood building, because none of those foods will matter if your spleen is too congested and constipated. I'd love to hear your feedback. Please send me comments all the way. You can get into the Energy Medicine Yoga website, and there's emails there where you can contact us. Those will always come to me, or drop a comment. We love to see the comments. Thanks for listening or for watching, and I will see you next time on Energy Works. Alrighty, Energy fans, that's a wrap on another positively charged episode of Energy Works. Lauren, this is the part where we get to use our energy puns.
It's been electrifying, hasn't it, Blaine? We hope you've enjoyed it as much as we have.
If you're feeling amped up, and you want to keep your energy flowing, be sure to hit that subscribe button on your favorite podcast platform.
And we'd love to hear from you. So please take a moment to leave us a review. Your feedback helps us continue to deliver content that resonates. So light up our inbox.
And spark a conversation with your friends to tell them about us. And we'll see you next time on Energy Works.